all afternoon, we're going to have these pop up storms. Some of them could have some lightning and thunder and some winds in them. So watch out as you're moving around this afternoon as we head into Memorial Day weekend. Updates on that if we start getting some development this afternoon. It's pretty stunning to look at the pictures that are coming out of New York City right now. They've had some tremendous flooding. The city's infrastructure has been neglected and is crumbling, and they are much in the news these days because of this commie Muslim dude this child that they elected with these childlike tendencies as the freaking mayor, a guy who's never had a job. He's only been in the country 7 years. This dude's running the biggest city in the country. Now, this isn't his fault. This neglect has gone on for administration after administration, but they can't even move water when they get, several inches of rain. And so right now you've got these crazy scenes because in a city that's that compact, you got trash floating down the road. You got people, if you've been to that city and you understand most people have to move around on foot. Some people move around with their bicycles. Others, you can get a cab or you can get an Uber, but you don't get around the same way you do in a lot of cities. Not everybody has their own car. It's a different way to move about just to get to and from the grocery store, work, or anything you're doing. A lot of it is just foot traffic. Well, you can't walk through this stuff. In some cases, it's waist deep. So you got a lot of folks that are trapped in their buildings, these vertical buildings. They just can't go down under the street. Whatever they had in their home, they've got for now until this stuff recedes. I watched a woman step off of a bus. She was in a bus trying to leave a bus. People are filming everything nowadays. Everybody's videoing, and she thought she could step down and step into that moving water and then get over to the sidewalk, which was dry, and it just took her out, took her down, and then swept her away like a raging river. So a lot of that going on this afternoon around that city. I mean, they'll be fine. There will be some sub damage. Naturally, the train stations are all flooded out. It's crazy to see the video, though. But again, that's poor infrastructure. That is when you do things like you can't fix your drainage in a city that size, or out in California when you can't put out a fire for the opposite reason because they don't know how to contain water. It's just incompetence, and there's so much of it in the news today. Government failing us everywhere you turn. And we'll get into some more of those things here in just a minute, too. Michelson Laser Vision bringing you the show tonight. Dr. Mark Michelson and Dr. Jennifer Michelson. That's where I went 7 years ago to get LASIK. People ask me a lot of times, if you ever had to do it again, would you do it? In a minute. They wouldn't even have to ask me. I would just diagnose myself and go, I need to do it again. I'm starting to. Because, as you get older, your eyes do age. And I suppose like any kind of surgery, you might have to have it done again. But I've got friends that did it 15, 20 years ago and they still have the same vision. I'm still 2015. It was remarkable to have all that change in my life. So if you're in glasses or contacts, it really would behoove you to go to Michelson Laser Vision and at least find out what it's about, and at least find out if you're eligible. Some of you will not be. And sadly, you're stuck with the glasses and contacts, or they offer a bunch of other services that might help you see better as well. But once you get to know them, you'll get a comfort level like I did, and it might just change your life. It's Michelson Laser Vision, downtown UAB Highlands, Michelson Laser Vision. Well, I got other stuff I could get into too. Well, let's just go ahead and start with some phone calls. Y'all bring it. We'll kick it around through the afternoon and headlines when we get it. Trucker Bobby is up next, line 3. What's up, Trucker Bobby?
Hey, maybe I missed it, or maybe it's got lost in the mix of the local election stuff. I just haven't heard anything on what did we get out of the Trump's trip to China? I know they were supposed to be doing some economical stuff and getting them to help us negotiate a nuke deal in Iran, but I just haven't heard anybody talk about it.
Yeah, they talked about a lot of broad things because he took all those tech leaders with him, and it gets into the weeds. But like NVIDIA got a big deal to be able to sell chips to some of the manufacturers there. That's an American-oriented company that's also tied in with Taiwan. All of that stuff's global. They've agreed to some soybean purchases in the billions of dollars from our soybean farmers who've been trying to keep up lately. The tariffs set them back for a while we were resetting the tariff structure. And so in order for them to be able to plant and know they've got international customers, China has got so many people, they can't consume enough soybeans So it seems like a natural fit. So the farmers were pretty pleased with that. And it was just a lot of business deals. I don't think it had any real effect on Iran whatsoever, because Trump was bragging that, China was going to back off supporting Iran, and that maybe they would help us a little bit with the negotiations. But they've sort of come out and put out opposite statements, and no, they're not interested in any of that. So I don't think it was any kind of win on that front, but it was a huge demonstration of power for the United States, because China, when they put on a show like that, they're trying to impress. They at least respect us enough to pretend, and maybe we nudge the football down the road a little bit more that way.
Okay, yeah, I heard you talking about the market rallying today, and it just made me think of that trip to China that I hadn't heard anything about. All right, Leland, thanks for taking my call.
Thanks, man. That's a good question. I don't know. Today I started digging around during the break. Let's talk about the markets for just a minute, because now they've closed. Let's see where the Dow wound up today. It was way above record territory at one point. Let me see what the peak was. And I'm just looking at the Dow right now. Of course, there are other indices, but at one point today, it was at 50,000. I'm pretty sure I saw 400 or so. And right now I see 50,368, which would exceed the record. It didn't close that way. It did close up to 50,292. So if you can open one eye and look at your portfolio again, if you've got 401ks, and what that apparently is based on, and this is maybe eventually good news at the gas pump, is that the idea that there is a serious deal being negotiated over clearing the Strait of Hormuz and ending the tensions in that region. It's really just not about Iran, but getting them to back off the hostile tactics. Oil took a dive today too, and got down to, at one point, I didn't see where it closed on the afternoon, but let me see if I can find that real quick while we're talking. But oil had gotten down to about $96 a barrel, which is not where we want it. We want it down in the low 70s somewhere, but it's heading that way, and it was a pretty precipitous drop, and that, of course, was connected to the stock market, the overall stock market today. So we've seen this before, where there's optimism, oil drops, stocks go up, and then Iran blows it up again. It's really a battle of wills. So today, let's say, the WTI closed at 97. The Brent is still above 100. But that's better than 120. Again, if you understand what the Iranians were attempting to do, is they wanted to drive oil to $150, $170 a barrel and create international problems that would pressure the United States. And it's kind of been the opposite. And let me talk about why. Part of that is Trump's team had the wisdom to deal with our own oil infrastructure ahead of a world shock if they were going to make this move. And so by that, they started drilling again. They loosened some refinery rules, and they did the Venezuela move. And oil had started dropping very steadily, and it was getting on back down to more reasonable levels. But having built that cushion, Trump knew that this move was going to send it back up. But in a way, it's under control, because at any point, if it needs to if there's a national emergency, you just cut a deal and end the chokehold that you have on Iran. So again, it's technically up to us, but kind of up to them, and that's all being negotiated. But we had the room to do it. And the rest of the world, China is suffering from it more than anybody. In fact, they had a huge sell-off in their markets today. I think somewhere I read that it was 2 trillion in yen that were taken off the books of their exchanges, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There is upheaval in, let me see if I can get to, I don't want to pretend to be an expert. I just know what I read, and I'm doing my best to stay ahead of it and understand it enough to break it down here on the show. But the tech world's being rocked right now by this whole move into AI and that whole space. And so there are a lot of big things that are happening. For example, you had the NVIDIA deal that Trump mentioned, and that has helped their stocks. You had other stocks take a dive today because they're just not positioned for this new world that everybody's predicting. Now, look, I lived through the dot-com bubble too, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of promises about the good side and the scare over the bad sides of all that. And it kind of worked itself out. And calmer heads are going, this will work itself out too. We're not going to commit suicide by jumping into AI too quickly. but I think it's smart to pay attention to the people that are warning us about the social effects, the economic effects, the labor effects. So today, Meta did this ice cold bloodletting and fired 8,000 people via email. And a lot of those were foreign workers. Meta hires just, tens of thousands all over the world. And the way I understand the way they did it was they started having their own employees. It was just cold blooded. It was like something out of a movie. They had their own employees start using these AI tools a few months ago. A story I read today said they gave them all a day off to familiarize themselves with AI, with the AI platform that they control. And they started insisting that their employees start using these tools. And so they did. They sort of integrated it with their own people and their own systems, with their own day-to-day productivity. But as they were doing that, what was happening was the employees were training the AI to take their own jobs. It's kind of ironic because it's like when American workers started having to train Indian tech workers that were coming over here to do data work that would work exponentially cheaper, and in some cases were just as trained and able to do the work. So American employees were they were fired and giving these severance notices, but told you only get your severance if you stay on and train Rajneesh to do your job. And then they kick them out. And that was happening all over this country. Well, now Rajneesh's ass is getting fired. He's having to go home and he can't afford couscous anymore because AI is taking his job. So it is the doo-doo run downhill in that industry. And today there was a bloodletting with Meta. Now, sometimes the markets look at that, and I'm not saying that's exactly what happened today, but the announcements, there were several other big tech announcements like that where they were saying, we're going to cut this percentage of our workforce. And I forget which one it was. It's cutting 17%, but at least they gave their employees a heads up. The Meta folks literally sent out a blast email telling everybody who was fired. It with almost no warning. In some of these countries, there are no requirements to give warning. Some places in the United States, there are windows where employees have to have time to transition. You can't just do mass layoffs. There's a sequence to it. If you're hiring all these Indians and Chinese people and others all over the world to do this work, you can just fire them with an email. And they did, like straight cold-blooded. Back in the hostile takeover days of the 80s, you'd have a CEO, they'd all call him Chainsaw, and their job was to come into the newly merged company and just start doing the layoffs. And it was more, there was a method to it. But nowadays with tech and everything moving as swiftly as it does, it's pretty brutal the way Meta handled that. And so that's one of the many stories. And I know I'm kind of bouncing around here with all this stuff, but we're in this competition. Some people call it a war with China. That has resulted in us having to realign. That's done a lot of things. Can I ramble for like 2 more minutes and then we'll get to Gene over here in Holly Pond? Because my mind just goes off into hyperspace when I start thinking about what's happening. Because again, I'm trying to understand from a layman's perspective all this stuff without having to become a tech geek. You've got so many dynamics because of the promise of this technology. So it's the tech workers, it's service workers, it's data workers, it's anybody that works typing on a keyboard all day quickly can be replaced. And then you got the data centers that are being built. There's the economics of that. If people don't have paychecks, there goes some of the retail economy. So there's danger in that. We've got these wars going on over building these data centers in these communities. Politicians are getting greased. Eminent domains being declared. We're even running a commercial here where the power company's telling you that the data centers are going to have to pay their own way. Well, that sounds good, but let's deal in realville. In supply and demand, these guys are putting a tremendous demand on the system, and the infrastructure is not there. The power generation capabilities is not there. I saw an infrared picture of a processing center that is online, and this thing was glowing in this infrared. I guess it was more of a photograph taken from a distance. And I assume these numbers are correct because it was a little like a pretty credible source, and I've seen this data before. But this thing was producing so much heat and energy sort of back into the atmosphere from just the constant operations. That they said it's the equivalent. It was the equivalent of the energy in 36 Hiroshima bombs. I mean, the energy release in a nuclear bomb, the energy produced daily by this one center was 36 times that. And that's a science calculation. I'm not going to sit down and try to crunch the math on it, but that just shows you the scale that we're up against. And there's other aspects that are starting to pop up that we're having to adjust to, and I'll get to some of that here in just a little bit too as we think our way through it. Let me get this break in. I see Gene over there. I promised to go heavy on the calls today, and we will definitely do that. Southern Skies Dermatology next up on the show. SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Speaking of radiation, you need as we get outside more and more and it gets hot and we're able to do things outdoors, protect yourself this summer. Do the smart things. Wear the sun shirts. I got to pick up a couple of those for some of my summer travel this year. It's a whole lot easier to throw one of those lightweight new kind of shirts on and protect yourself instead of trying to slather up every time you're going to be outside for a minute. So do that. Wear the hats. Do the things. But one of those things that doesn't get as emphasized is just going and getting checked. Knowing where you stand, getting that quick baseline. If you're younger, you may not even feel vulnerable to this, but we're all vulnerable to some way. I had a family member in our 20s that had a very serious skin cancer back then that just arrived. It just showed up. And so we're all capable of developing it at any moment. So you need a place to go, and that's Southern Skies. This is what they do. This is all they do is find and remove skin cancer. So let them help you. Let them give you an all clear or give you some warnings and rid you of something that could really devastate you or change your life or take your life, to be honest. This is Dr. Moore and his team are the best. They've got great locations all around town. It is SouthernSkiesDermatology.com, SouthernSkiesDermatology.com. Back in a minute. Yep, 326. Some of y'all are hitting the road this summer and even this weekend for Memorial Day. Make sure that car is good. I'm telling you, do the service work. You don't want to get out there stranded with your whole family. Man, I had to change the tire one time on a family trip. We had luggage, kids in the car. It was packed. I'm on the side of a highway. You don't want to have to deal with car trouble on the road. Let Tapco give you a look over and a final service before you hit the road this year. Michael downtown at Tapco. Man, these guys are just straight up service text mechanics. That's an old phraseology. These people have to be computer technicians nowadays and detectives to search through all the complex components of modern cars, and they're just the best at it. They're so courteous. They've got a shuttle service that Michael and them will run you back to work if you drop it off in the morning. Get that work done, make sure you're good to go, and then get back on the road. You having trouble with your air conditioner because when the heat kicks in, let them help. They can do work, and while dealers will tell you got to wait, just take it to Tapco and get it done. It's TAPCO, TapcoBham.com. They're offering 10% off right now for Leland Live listeners. You just drop my name and get 10% off their service. And once you're in the pipeline, you get to know Michael and how they work. Something big does come up. You got somebody you trust, somebody you know is going to be fair on their pricing and absolutely competent with the best service techs in the state of Alabama to get this kind of stuff done for you. Tapco Beham, TAPCO, TapcoBham.com, 6th Avenue South, downtown Birmingham. Here's Gene in Holly Pond. What you got, Gene?
Hey, it might not be on point, really, what you're talking about. You know, everybody's kicking on China. I do. I can't stand it. But my AC fan motor, out, the outside unit, went out yesterday. And called a man. The man come out, and he was putting a new one in and a capacitor. Altogether, $1,300. And I just happened to ask, I guess that fan motor is made in China. He's like, probably. And he looked and he said, no, India. I'm like, so
Yep.
They're making them on a dirt floor, and they're charging me $850 for a motor to run a fan? Yeah. I mean, come on. What can you do? I mean, you're sweating. You're going to put it in.
Yeah, when you wind up in that situation, you're going to do whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a hostage
And my
situation.
unit's only 8 years old. I mean,
It can happen.
They got us in the spot. There ain't nothing really we can do. I mean,
It's life. And you know what happens to me, Gene? Sometimes I don't just get one of those things. It'll happen 4 or 5 of them at once. And then I'm good for like a year.
I know.
And then all of a sudden it all starts happening. Everything starts breaking at the same time. But that's just how it is, buddy.
Yeah, and the same day yesterday, my motor cam quit working too, so I got to replace it too. So I can't win.
Come on, man. You got this.
One,
Thanks, Gene. All right, there's Gene today. Bottom of the hour, 3:30, Leland Live. Y'all got something you want to throw in? We're a little bit loose now. I think I've dealt with the heavy stuff. Bring it. Leland Live, Talk 99.5. Stay tuned. That song always confuses me because if he's got roots, you can't fly anywhere if you. Does that make sense, AJ? Or like if you rooted, if you're a tree, you're not flying anywhere. I can get the wings. I don't know. Sometimes things like that hit me, and I just start thinking about the song. I'm like, I get the metaphor, but it doesn't work for me. Cool jam though. Man, I was just thinking about Gene's call a second ago about his air conditioner breakdown. And I meant to ask him, have you been doing your service? Because I'm on y'all all the time about that. And Gene he might have, but let's be real. A lot of folks will just let that thing run until something happens. And I did that about 17 years ago when I first met Douglas. They were under a different name in those days. But I had a system that was starting to fail me. Every now and then it wouldn't cool. And I had a friend who had a cousin who knew somebody that would come put a little coolant in it. He had a can of refrigeration rolling around in his van, and he'd swing by there and just charge it up, knowing it was going to leak, and it was a slow leak, so it was eventually going to leak again. That's how I'll get through, because I didn't want to take the hit. And to be real with you, I never had those systems serviced. They were two old janky sort of contractor grade systems that came with the house when I bought it. Who thinks about that stuff? Man, I do nowadays. Because what happened was they had a bunch of family members coming in from out of town. It was easily 95 degrees that day. I think the heat index was worse than that. And that's when they break. That's when they're maxed out and stressed. That's when they're going to break. So my lack of good judgment and responsibility led to that thing blowing up on me. And it was the downstairs unit. I remember it had 2 units on this house. And then the upstairs went out right after that. And I couldn't figure out, how did they go out at the same time? Well, they were both maintained poorly by the same owner, which was me. And the upstairs was trying to keep up because it couldn't when the downstairs failed, and it eventually popped too. So I had to do a double install, and I was dreading it. Well, here's what I learned from that. One, you need a good service company in your life like Douglas. Gene's situation might have, I'm not sure, but it might have been headed off by regular maintenance because they can spot. What they described to me was I had a very inexpensive problem, some kind of capacitor that went out and caused a short, caused another part of the system to overheat. And I don't know what any of that stuff is in there. And so eventually it was sort of a domino effect, and I wound up having to buy 2 units. I probably could have made those things last 2 or 3 more years if I'd done it right. So that's my little personal story. Y'all go get this kind of stuff done, or actually just obviously let them come to you and clean it up, service it, check everything, because heading off small trouble can lead to heading off big trouble when it comes to those kind of systems in the attic or outside your house, whichever part of the system needs love and attention. It is a mechanical system. And Douglas is the company that saved my bacon back then. They were able to come out and get the install done pretty quick that day. They had it done by, I think, the next afternoon. I mean, I was going to have to put relatives up in hotels. I was so embarrassed. You couldn't sit in the house. Houses nowadays are not made to just open the windows. Old houses had cross ventilation in mind. We make modern houses to be efficient, but that only works as long as you got an AC system that works. When that thing quits working, the efficiency is just going to trap that heat. So most of you live in houses like that. So stay on top of it. Trust me on that, and get Douglas to come help. They'll be out doing, not only do they do the service work for me, but they'll be doing a little system addition, adding some capacity this summer. And I'll maybe on the road while they're here doing it. I don't even have to think twice about it. It'll be done because they're the best. Call Douglas.com. They specialize in the Bryants, but they can obtain and put in any system you want on your property, and let them do that maintenance, and it'll save you in the long run. Call Douglas.com, license number 2017181. Call Douglas.com. All right, here's a story that's going to affect Alabama. I saw it earlier today, and affect you too if you're interested in these weight loss drugs and all that stuff. It's another one of those things that's out there. We're just now understanding any kind of side effects associated with it. But Eli Lilly is a major company and a major player in that market. And as many of you know, they have announced a few weeks ago of a major plant that they're going to put in Alabama to manufacture these weight loss drugs in the Huntsville area. And it was a huge, huge job announcement. Well, the key to all that going forward is for their products to make sure they clear some of the hurdles that they have to clear. And they've invented something they call their next generation drug, and it has just cleared a crucial late stage trial in patients. You know, they do different stages of these trials, but actually trying them in the real world with patients with obesity. And they're saying the results are blowing them away and the researchers away. Here's an example for those that are, you know, some of y'all are in this world, you're taking those things or you're doing those things. The highest dose, I think you got you got to pronounce the name of this drug slowly. It's retatrutide. Because I'm gonna be real, y'all. When you look at it, it looks like retarditude. I'm just saying, but you don't want to call it that. It's retatrutide. There we go. Retatrutide. Get used to saying that one, because if these results are correct, you're going to be seeing a lot of headlines about it. But they saw losses of 28.3% of body weight, or around 70.3 pounds on average, after 80 weeks, compared with 2.2% with people that took the placebo. And I guess they were all having the same kind of lifestyle effects. 45% of the 2,500 patients in the phase 3 trial received at least 30% weight loss. So for folks struggling with serious obesity, I don't mean skinny girls that are kind of bulimic and just think they need it, and like these Hollywood actresses that seem to be addicted to looking like skeletons, but you got folks with serious health problems because of the weight, and it's just these things can do miracles. And again, Alabama has an economic stake in this stuff going well, and apparently that did go well in the trial. So a little news on there. Doing a lot of business news today. That's fine with me. Sometimes I want to geek out on that stuff too. Line 2 is Mary. Let's do some more phone calls. Mary, what's on your mind tonight?
Well, I was listening to Gene talk about his capacitor. And what happened with us is our capacitor went out, and I forget how much we paid. I think way over $100. And we went online after the guy left and looked it up on the internet, and it was like $14. So we bought 2 of them. It's only connected with 3 wires, and all you do is take a little picture, and then you hook it up just like it was, and your capacitor's working.
Well, there you go, Mary. That's how you solve your own problems. Get on YouTube and try to figure it out. Good for you. Depends on what's capacitor does. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, look, I'm quick to do stuff like that. I don't, to be real with you, and it's not just because, you know, we got a big sponsor that does this, but for example, I have the guts taken out of a water heater system in the motorhome. It's a diesel water heater system. There's a sensor that's gone bad. There's something, and I've learned how that whole system works. It had trouble on the road last time I went out, and I was like, I'm going to fix that. Well, now I'm creeping up on some summer travel. Like, I got to get it done. So I've been working on that on the weekends when I have the brain space, and I'll wind up fixing it. I think I'm real close to solving the last little issue with it. But some things, I'm telling you, I just let the pros handle it. I don't want to kill myself with electrical shock or blow something up. So I don't typically fool with much electrical or plumbing or heating and air stuff. I just don't. I'll do everything else on the house. I'm not getting on the roof either, by the way. I don't know those things. But yeah, sometimes you can get online and learn stuff real quick and match up parts and look up numbers. For example, I'll tell you all a funny story. I don't know why all this is on my mind right now, because I just got the part in right when the show was starting. FedEx showed up. I have one of those sink sprayer head things on the sink, and it failed. I mean, the sink's, I guess, about 7 years old now, and the little button on the side of it that changes the way the water sprays just got stuck, and it wasn't coming loose, and there was no way to take it apart. And I'd never had an experience like this, so I thought, well, let me just find this brand, look this model up, find that part. Surely they sell the part, and I'll just order one. Can't be that expensive. So I did. I found the brand of a sink, and I never heard of this brand. I didn't build this kitchen, so it was new to me. And so I get online, and it turns out the company that makes it is so proprietary, they won't let anybody else make fake parts for their sink parts. And you have to call, AJ, I had to call these people. They put me on phone with some woman in the Philippines for sure. She was as pleasant as she could be. She was like, may I see a picture of your sink? I was like, sure, girl. If you kinky like that, sure, I'll show you. So I went up. They sent me a link so I could do a video chat, so they could make sure I actually had one of these sinks before they would. And I thought, well, maybe this is just because they're going to cover it with the warranty. And I mean, literally, it's a spray head. You screw it off and screw another one on. But they put me through an inquisition to make sure I was too legit to quit before they would even, AJ, before they would even sell me this $10 part, which wound up with shipping being like a $25 part. But I found it. They just shipped it to me. I'll screw another one on, and hopefully it'll go 7 years. What I'm saying is, yeah, you can get to the bottom of it and repair things yourself for sure. But I had never been quizzed by an Asian over my sink integrity. She questioned me too, man. Yeah, she like, we must validate. That's a terrible accent. You have actual sink. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, I must see a sink in your kitchen. It's like, how you gonna come over? What are we doing? Like,
we need you to send video of your house. Yeah. Now we know the whole layout of your house, so we will be there.
Our friends at Meta say you are standing in your kitchen in pink underwear right now. I was like, what? Wait, y'all can see me? Anyway, so yeah, dude. So the video link didn't work, and she said, I try another way. And she got my email and sent me another email link where I was able to take a video while we were on the phone and send it to her, wait on her to download it on the other side of the planet so she could watch it and verify that I was telling her the truth. Then they would sell me a part. It was crazy. Well, at least my sink will work tonight. How about that? Crazy times, man. 545-9950 is the phone number if y'all want to jump in here. Let's go. EcoView Windows and Doors, EcoView Windows. Speaking of parts and house stuff, man, the other side of that air conditioner story is making sure your house is tight. Your system's just going to run better if it's not doing battle with the leaks. In other words, when you set that thing on, I don't know, 68 at night, some of y'all can't roll that cold. It's going to try to do 68 all night, no matter what your windows are doing. And if they're leaky and old and out of date, it's just going to run all night because you've told it to go to 68 and it's just going to do its best. Then over time, there's wear and tear on that. You're killing off the lifespan of it. It's kind of overworking itself, and you notice it on your power bills. It's your daggum windows and your doors, perhaps. EcoView can button that up for you. The industry average is that 35% of your money goes out the window and out the door when you've got these kind of old systems, or even on some newer houses where they just went cheap on the windows and impressed you with the countertops when they built your house. And who looks at windows? So you're falling in love with the kitchen. They put crappy windows on your house. Let's get that up to speed. They will do single window projects. Say you got a rock, you got a crack, something like that. They'll come and handle that. But for the most part, if you'll let them button you all the way up and they can ensure that your house is now efficient, they can back it up and show you that over the course of 12 months through all 4 seasons, you can save up to 35% on your heating bills and your air conditioner bills with EcoView windows. Let them come give you a free estimate, get to know them. You'll see what I mean. They're serious. They're good. They want to be good. They want to brag. They want you to go tell all your neighbors about your new windows. EcoViewWindows.com, EcoViewWindows.com. All right, y'all, 3:53. Let's keep on talking. Crocker Moving Service is ready to help out. Let's say you're in, well, I guess they can't help in Cuba, can they? I was about to say, let's say you're in the Castro family and you need to move. In the lower 48, though, Crocker can get it done for you if you want to move anywhere. Maybe it's the whole house, the whole family. Somebody's got a new job, life change, whatever. They'll get that done. Andrew was reaching out to me last week, getting some help from these guys. He's got relatives moving to Birmingham from a long way away. And I'm like, yeah, man, they can help with that. And, of course, the way I've used them over the years when I got to know Eric and they came on the show is just these smaller projects where I've just got something heavy or a lot of pieces of heavy furniture, just a short move, couple hours. And that just works for me because I didn't have to book them all day and spend more than I needed to. I got all the tedious stuff. They get the hard to do stuff, and it just works for everybody. They got the trucks, they got the tools, they got the techniques, the strong backs, and they just hired the best people in the business, and that's their thing. Eric's a former Marine, an honorable guy who hires the best people and just wants to do a good job for you. Don't you like that? Call them if you need them. A lot of people do moving in the spring and summer, just a season of change sometimes ahead of the next school year. Let Crocker help. CrockerMovingServices.com. CrockerMovingServices.com. Speaking of Castro, which is kind of why I slid that in, I don't know what's going on, but we're getting some reports of a lot of low-flying military aircraft all around Miami right now. It's freaking people out. Now, we don't know if it's anything to do with this Cuba tension because we do have a huge amount of military presence suddenly in the Caribbean and in the region. We just moved the Nimitz carrier group into the region, I'm sure just to apply pressure. And we know that there have been, ongoing negotiations, of course, with the Castro regime, face-to-face in Cuba. This isn't something they're doing through third parties, but there are people that track, military flights online and try to keep up with our movements. And some of that is just, they're extrapolating over things a lot of them don't even understand or know about. And some of it is head fake stuff as well. But that doesn't mean we're invading Cuba. And you've also got this prospect where there's so much excitement after the indictment of Raul Castro. Just yesterday. You got a lot of excitement with Cuban nationals down in Miami, hoping that any moment now we're going to see a raid or something go down. And it could be that you've got such a military presence there. They're doing just maneuvers and training, and you'd be able to see that from Miami, or they need to go onshore to do things from time to time. But I did see the video of it, and it's kind of weird because they're kind of hovering even below the tops of some of the buildings very near the coast, and people are looking up wondering what the heck is going down. We'll keep up with it. If it develops into an actual news story, we'll let you know. Here is Railroad John over here on line 4. What's up, Railroad John?
Hey, Mr. Leland, Mr. AJ. I appreciate y'all taking my call today.
Yeah.
I got a couple of things I'd like to mention to you about, and then I'll hang up and let you comment on it. But on the railroad respect, we talked about, you said your brother also worked for CSX, the company I used to work for.
Yeah.
They worked out some kind of little agreement with BNSF, and on the Union Pacific Norfolk Southern thing, the Surface Transportation Board has not yet approved their merger, but I think they probably will. It's just a matter of time. But on the data centers, I was going to mention to you, I just wonder if anyone has thought about this. They keep talking about, people don't want data centers here, there, and yonder. Well, right there in Gadsden, and they could use it because, talking about as far as for people working, the old steel plant, the Republic Steel Plant, it closed. There was a big bread factory, it closed, and then the steel plant, the Goodyear rubber plant, tire plant closed. And in that area, that building is huge. And from what I understand, someone bought the building, and they've got part of that area leased out to I want to say a transportation company. But right there in that area, they have access to rail. They have rail service. It's right there on the Coosa River, and I don't know if it's still in operation. I had heard the Alabama Power was talking about closing. There was also an Alabama power plant right there, just almost touching the property of it.
Well, the idea of co-locating some of these centers with power generation it's a big idea because you have a lot of energy loss when you're sending that much electricity over long distances. But some of it's just kind of bulldozing its way through. As far as rail, I'm not sure why. I don't think a data center would need rail because they're not exporting anything. And the fallacy about the job thing is, and I'm not totally opposed to them. We got to build these things. We got to figure out where to best build them. And I think we need to slow down and do it in a more proper fashion that suits communities. There's a massive job surge when you get one of these plants going up. I call it a plant, one of these facilities going up, but then that falls off because it doesn't take a whole lot of people to run or monitor them. So it's similar to warehousing operations. You build these massive warehouses for Amazon or whatnot, and everything's going to robotics, and you don't need as many people to handle all that for you. John, I got to go to the top of the hour break. I think we lost you for a second, but you're back. I'll give you the last word, 30 seconds. Go, man.
Yeah, it's such a huge, huge building. I don't know how many acres and how many thousands and thousands of square feet, that building is. But if they could go in there and renovate it, and like I say, they could move their equipment in by rail if they wanted to. And then, like I say, they got a power plant and the Coosa River right there handy. All right, guys, appreciate it. Thank you for what you do.
Hey, good call. That's the way to think, man. You got to think outside the box sometimes to get this stuff worked out. Okay, quick break, and then we'll come right on back. 545-9950 if you want to talk about any of these things this afternoon. Headlines and updates when we get fresh stuff, too. That's what we do. We'll look at the weather, too, at the top when we get back. Leland Live.